Hey everybody, welcome to DCG. Um, Obviously you're here, this video is about the student assignment. We're just going to take a quick look at the brief that was issued late last week. So most of you have already been probably back to school and your teachers have given you out the pink piece of paper. I'm going to go through the brief which I've downloaded from the examinations.ie website, which is where you can get all of the relevant information, official information about the project. So what I want to highlight here is I want to highlight obviously the ordinary level and higher level briefs, but also some of the changes that have been made to the project as a result of the loss of school time due to the pandemic. Now I understand we were online all over the country, but the state exams have made some concessions in terms of the amount of or the volume required in the project. For example, the higher level project would traditionally have been 14 pages and that has been reduced to 10, and we'll talk about that in a little while. And the ordinary level project was traditionally 12 pages long and is being reduced to 8 pages. So you can see in both ordinary and higher level the projects have been reduced by 4 pages each. Now that's not to say that there's 4 pages less work. There's still a good volume of work still in there, and again, projects, there are as much work as you put into them. Okay, so don't underestimate the level of work that you have to put in here to get a really good project. It's probably still going to require the same amount of effort as if you were doing a 14 page or a 12 page project at either higher or ordinary level. So we'll have a look here at the front of the brief, and you can see here design, communication, graphics, student assignment, ordinary level and higher level, 160 marks. Okay, so you have 400 marks in total for the whole of DCG, 240 marks for the exam, and 160 marks then being allocated to the actual project itself. Okay, now let's take a little look. So here we have some of the criteria, as you can see there. A3 design portfolio, so it will be printed off in A3 physically, but you'll also have a CD or a USB electronic copy of your project that will be submitted with the physical portfolio itself. As you can see there, 8 pages at ordinary level, 10 pages at higher level, and this page requirement is a reduction on previous years. Okay, and that's because of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it impacted school time. So all that said, I'm not going to spend too much time here on the itsy bitsy stuff. Your teacher will go through all of that with you in class. Now, what I would like to kind of point out here is just, for example, the actual briefs themselves. You'll see that there are quite a number of 10 different things that are there. Obviously here the deadline has been set already for the 15th of January 2021. So, you're getting back after Christmas holidays, and hopefully school is somewhat back to normal, and that, you've all had a nice Christmas at that stage too, and that you're doing the finishing touches to your project when you get back and you get it in on that date. Alright, so we'll take a little look here at the ordinary level student assignment, Leaving Certificate 2021. So I'll read it and then we'll go through how it is actually broken down in terms of the number of pages. A power bank is a portable charger designed to recharge your electronic gadgets, mobile phone, portable speaker, camera, tablet, laptop, etc. when you are on the move. Power banks range in a size from slim, pocket-sized devices up to larger, higher capacity power sources capable of starting cars. Design features may include LED indicators, USB connections, built-in wireless charging pad, photovoltaic panels to auto charge itself, etc. So, part A of the project, you have to carry out a design investigation of existing power banks in graphic format. Your investigation should include an analysis of physical form and shape, features, colour, materials, etc. And part B, you have 2 options. One, you can show graphically how you would physically modify a chosen power bank to improve its overall design, or develop and graphically communicate a new concept design for a power bank based on a selected theme or target market. So that choice there, your teacher will again guide you on that as to which is the best choice. Whichever you choose to do, there is the same volume of work. What I would have found over years of experience is that most students will decide to go for the second option in part B, which is to develop a new concept design. And I think that's a little more motivational for yourself, because you have a blank canvas from all of that stuff you have learned about the power bank. So you have that blank canvas now to go and design your own one, and you can aim it at a particular theme or a target market. So it could be like a GA power bank in the shape of a football, and you're aiming to sell it to people who are going to GA matches. There you go. Alright, so the assignment should follow the structure outlined in the marking considerations below. So here we have the part A of the project, alright, and it's based on the existing artifacts that are out there, and part B, design modification or concept design. So here we have number, and these are relating to the outputs, okay, output 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And then we have the heading, the description of what's required. We have the page numbers, okay, and they're A3, and you can only use one side of the page there per output, and then the marks being awarded per section. So for example, output 1, the ordinary level, design research and design feature comparison. So exploration of brief and presentation of existing artifacts in graphic format. Select 2 images and illustrate, explain the main design features, insert the main dimensions, compare and contrast the main design features of both using suitable freehand sketches and other presentation techniques. Okay, so that's output 1, and that's 1 to 2 pages at ordinary level. Output 2, freehand graphical representation. Choose one of the artifacts and make a detailed graphical presentation of this artifact. This should include a rendered freehand presentation quality drawing in 3D format, and that is 1 A3 page, and that is to be done by hand, that particular output. Okay, so the original page with the original sketches, no scanned work or anything like that. It's all the original stuff in this page. Okay, now they're worth 50 marks. The breakdown on the actual how many marks are going for output 1 or output 2, I'm not sure of the specific breakdown yet. We're awaiting guidelines on that, so I won't make any assumptions on that until I have further clarification. Okay, but I will let you know. Output 3 then is the SolidWorks parts, assembly, drawing and e-drawing files. So a detailed computer model comprising of up to no more than 3 parts, an assembly, a drawing and an e-drawing of the selected artifact. The required filing structure will be considered in the marking process. And this particular output 3 is not printed off, it's actually contained on your disk or USB that you submit with your project. Now, there is a filing structure for that, and I'll go through that in a while. Output 4 is the hard copy output of the SolidWorks. Again, here you'll see detailed orthographic views and exploded view. Okay, and that's 1 to 2 pages, and that's 60 marks for the combined output 3 and 4. Okay, again, I don't know the specific breakdown on how that goes, whether it's 30 and 30, 40 and 20, I'm not sure. Okay, what is clear from last year, there is no mention of photorealistic views, which is a process for creating realistic views of the object you've created. But I think as an additional factors, they take very little time to do. You could include one nice photorealistic view of your object and paste it in on your drawing page. There'll be no harm at all. Okay. Now, as regards to page numbers here, every teacher in every school will perceive that a different way. Some teachers might say 1 page there, 1 here, maybe 2 here. I personally will be going for 2 here, 1 here, and probably 1 here. Okay, so that'd leave me 4 pages for the first part of the project for the ordinary level, and there's 8 pages in total. So that'll give me the 4 pages to work with here once I decide where I'm going to use those 4 pages. So part B of the project, 5. Output 5 is graphical exploration of design solutions. So that's the analysis of brief and graphical illustration of possible solutions, justification for chosen solutions. 1 to 2 pages. I will be pushing for the 2 pages in my class. Output 6, presentation of modification and concept design. So that's detailed graphical presentation of the design, modification and concept design. This should include a rendered freehand presentation quality drawing in 3D format. Okay, and 1 page for that. Similar to output 2, this page has to be done by hand. Okay, the original sketches, no scanned sketches or anything like that. Okay, has to be the original. And then finally here, output 7, which is a hard copy from SolidWorks, CAD model, part, assembly, drawing, and e-drawing. And associated hard copies to include appropriately detailed orthographic and rendered pictorial views to communicate your chosen design. So you can see there rendered pictorial views, so they don't necessarily mean photorealistic views, but you can add in again if you want to paste in a photorealistic view. So I'd be going in this part B, 2 pages, 1 page, 1 page, and we're going to load them pages up with the SolidWorks drawings. Alright, as tight as it might be on the page, we'll get that information in there, and that gives you the 8 pages. So it's quite tight to get all the information in. Now, moving on to the higher level. So the higher level student assignment, Leaving Certificate 2021. Dash cams are placed on the dashboard or windscreen of a vehicle and are designed to continuously record the view of the road and or the vehicle interior. They are held in place using a variety of mounting systems to allow for the adjustment and or removal. Features of a dash cam include wide angle camera lens, power supply port, memory card slot, screen, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connectivity, built-in microphone speaker, etc. Part A, similar to the ordinary level, is carry out a design investigation of existing dash cams in graphic format. Your investigation should include an analysis of physical form and shape, materials, connectivity, etc. And then part B, you have 2 options, just like ordinary level. One is to show graphically how you would physically modify a chosen dashcam to improve its overall design, or develop and graphically communicate a new concept design for a dashcam based on a selected theme or target market. Okay, so we could have a dashcam here for, that's inspired by, let's say, music, and let's say that dashcam has let's say a design that reflects a musical symbol or an instrument or something like that. Could look like a keyboard, could have a nice keyboard pattern on the back side of it, and that target market you're appealing to would be kind of more of the bespoke design target market, where you get specialized kind of design products. For example, someone who drives a car who's a musician might actually like a dash cam that looks like a keyboard, and maybe that has some of those keys that light up or something like that. So all those things can be considered. The assignment should follow the structure outlined in the marking considerations below. So student assignment higher level, again here we see outputs are listed here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and of 1 to 4 is in part A, and 5, 6 and 7 are in part B. Now the part A is based on existing artifacts. That first output, design research and design feature comparison, so that involves the exploration of the brief and presentation of existing artifacts in graphic format using primary and secondary research. Select 2 images and explain the main design features. Insert the main dimensions, compare and contrast the main design features of both using suitable freehand sketches and other presentation techniques. Now that's going to be 2 to 3 pages, okay? I had my own class today, and again I would be kind of looking more toward the 3 pages in this particular output, because I think that there is a lot of scope for investigation. There will be a lot of scope for comparing products, and then communicating them graphically is going to be naturally a big part of it, but to get all that done you're probably looking at the 3 pages for that. Output 2, freehand graphical representation. Choose one of the artifacts and make a detailed graphical presentation of this artifact. This should include a rendered freehand presentation quality drawing in 3D format, and that's 1 page. That, similar to output to the ordinary level, this output 2 has to be the original page with the hand sketches on it. There's no scanned or no electronic notes to this. We want it as an original page, okay? And that's worth 50 marks, outputs 1 and 2. The breakdown of those marks I am not sure yet, but I will clarify that when I receive more information about it. Output 3, SolidWorks parts, assembly, drawing and e-drawing files. So generate a computer model comprising of up to but no more than 10 parts. Now the minimum requirement here is 5 parts. So we would encourage you to look at any of those objects and to pick the 5 main parts, okay? And to just focus on those. You will find maybe you want to add an extra button here or there depending on your discovery of the object itself, but what you want to do is when you have actually selected that object that you want to model, and that's something that you want to be smart about. If you have someone who has a car at home, or you know of someone with a car that has a dash cam, well, maybe you could ask them, could you study that dash cam and get the measurements from it, and that will make life easy for you, as opposed to going out and, you know, buying a dash cam or getting second-hand information from the internet with measurements and so on. That's, you know, that makes things a little more difficult. So try and source one locally from people that you know, okay? So moving on from that, that's the 10, no more than 10 parts, minimum of 5. Try and keep to the 5. And you want to make an assembly file, a drawn and an e-drawn of the selected artifact. Economy of design, design intent, and the required filing structure will be considered in the marking process. Okay, this is not an actual physical output. This will be contained on the CD or USB that you submit with your project, with your physical project, on the deadline, which is the 15th of January. Now, output 4, that is the printout of output 3. Okay, so basically you're going to take your model, you're going to put it into a drawn sheet, and you're going to create orthographic views and an exploded view. And this here I would see as being, you know, 1 to 2 pages. For the moment I have it as 1 page with my own guys, because we're looking at, you know, 10 pages for everything here. We want to try and keep 5 for part A and 5 for part B. So if I pick 3 here and have 1 here and 1 here, that makes 5. Now it's 50 marks for output 3 and 4 together. Again, I don't know the breakdown of that just yet, which gets more or less, or whether they're evenly balanced. Output 5 is graphical exploration of design solutions, so analysis of brief and graphical illustration of possible solutions. Justification for chosen solutions, including aesthetics, functionality, and environmental sustainability. Okay, and that's 1 to 3 pages. And I think with the higher level project, you're probably looking in around the, you know, the 2 to 3 page mark here. Certainly not 1 page. It'd be very hard to communicate everything in that, but definitely 2 to 3 pages. I think you could get it done in 2. Output 6, presentation of modification or design concept. So this, similar to output 2, is going to be a hand-drawn page only, alright, with nice sketches of your final design, okay, nicely explained, you know, in terms of, you know, size and so on, and that'll be 1 page. And then output 7, hard copy output from SolidWorks, so whatever you've designed, you're making it. Okay, again, here there is no minimum requirement on parts for the part B of the project. You can have, you know, if it was 1 part with enough detail, then that's sufficient. However, I would always suggest, in line with your previous research, you'll find that most objects, you know, have 4 or 5 parts minimum anyway. So you're probably going to go down that line, 4 or 5 parts in that. But you certainly don't want to be over modeling loads of parts and you know, creating unnecessary workload for yourself, because as you'll find, it's going to be a busy year for you guys. So you want to do not necessarily the minimum, but you want to be efficient with what you're doing. Okay, and that particular output there, again, there's photorealistic views here mentioned. They weren't mentioned in the ordinary level, but they are here, so you'll have to include those. So you're probably looking at about 2 pages for this output here, so that you can spread all of those bits and pieces that are required across the 2 pages. So again, there's 60 marks there for that section, okay, altogether. I don't know the split on it, alright, but if you look at the 2 of them, I'll just scroll back up to the ordinary level there. Ordinary level was 50 and 60 in part A, so that's 110, and then 50, that makes 160. So you're only getting 50 for the part B in ordinary level, whereas in the higher level you're getting 60 marks for the part B and 100 for the part A. And this is because that there's more of a critical analysis of the design intent within the part B of the project. And I think that's why I always encourage my guys to do the concept design, because you are coming up with something really original, hopefully really creative, innovative, and something that's inventive as well, okay, that you're bringing some idea into play. And that's that's something that is rewarded in the marks, so long as you graphically communicate that and give a rationale for it. And a rationale is just an explanation for why you did that and what the benefits are or advantages and so on of doing so. Okay, so that's that. For those who are Gaelgoers, you'll find your brief is available in Irish as well. I am not going to read that out in Irish, lads. My Irish will be very, very basic. But look, if you go to examinations.ie and you download that and you are Irish speaking, you can just take a wee look at the opposite half of that particular document pertaining all the details. Okay, so I'm just going to switch over to the camera here, and look guys, it's been a challenge for you guys. You know, your fifth year DCG was cut a little bit short, which is very unfortunate, but I'm sure that you've had activities in class in fifth year where you've actually had the opportunity to use SolidWorks, to conduct a little bit of research, to do a little bit of design as well. And all of that experience you have, you're going to have to build that into your project now. I would have found from experience that projects, when you look at them, you kind of initially want to understand, well, the little bits and pieces in it. And with the DCG project, it's quite structured. And I would always get you to focus on, you know, one output at a time. So, you know, in lieu of focusing on one output at a time, you still have a little bit of planning work to do. Okay, and one of those first stages will be creating a filing structure for saving all of your documents. For example, you know, your SolidWorks files and so on, because you know, you will want to keep everything in the proper areas as given in the guidelines if you look through those, so that you don't have any issues when it comes to transferring those files onto a USB or a CD. And it's also done as well for examination purposes. When the examiner opens up, maybe he could be correcting, or he or she could be correcting up to 100 projects, and you know, you open up a CD or USB, when the format's the same, it's very easy to find everything. So it's as much for convenience sake for the examiners as it is for your sake, to get you into a mindset of organising your material and keeping a neat library of your material that has been produced as a result of you doing your project. Okay, so if we were looking at, just before that filing structure, you're going to decide what sort of app or platform you're going to use to actually do your project. You can do your project entirely by, you know, almost by hand if you wanted to, in terms of the actual research pages and your sketch pages and so on. But what I find that, you know, in your research pages, it's nice to have a blend of your, you know, electronic text, electronic images that you've researched. Now you could cut those, print them off and cut them out and stick them on the page with Pritt Stick and so on and so forth. But I would like to bear in mind as well that, you know, there may be a time when schools are closed, if there's a lockdown or if there's a case in a school of the virus, and you might be working from home, and you might necessarily have access to printers or materials or anything like that. So I would encourage, you know, you to consider an online platform. And I think, you know, given the last 4 or 5 months where we've had online learning, well, particularly in April, May and June, you would find that those online classrooms, be it Google Classroom or be it Microsoft 365 or whatever it is you're using in school, I'm sure your teacher will be trying to build it in towards that. For example, in my school, I would be using Google Classroom, and I would be, you know, using Google Drive, and I would be using Google Slides for the actual the portfolio. Okay, so we would electronically bring our information into Google Slides from our internet searches and the pictures that we've taken, transport everything into it and arrange it nicely, nice and neat. And that's something I'm going to be doing in future videos. Alright, so I'm going to have an output 1 video done by the end of this week, because this is only an introduction to the project, and I'll go through my output 1 in terms of the number of pages I've done, the information I have in it, the structure I have to it, because what you're doing essentially is you are telling the story or the history of that product leading up to this point in time. So it's quite chronological. If I'm thinking about the higher level project and I'm thinking about dash cams, I'm thinking back, what were the initial forms of surveillance? So you might be going back to CCTV systems from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and you might be just taking, a quick look at that. You wouldn't be going too deep, but you do want to maybe acknowledge some of the main developers at that time, the types of technology that were available, and how they operated very, very simply. And then you're going to want to make sure that we go through the brief and we look at what is being asked in terms of those particular the research output one. So we want to find that the keywords in the brief are actually our key headings. Okay, for example, when you see materials, you have got to have a heading on your project on that page, materials, and you'll find that most of these dash cams are made from polyethylene titrate plastics. They're produced by either thermosetting or processes. You don't need to go into the science of it, but you certainly do have to mention it. And you might mention then about aesthetics, which is the look of the object, the shape, the form, the functionality, the environmental aspect of these products, how efficient they are. Are they charging off natural light using photovoltaic cells? Are they charger based, where you plug into the charger dock in the car and you plug it in, and so on? Okay, now I'm centering mine more towards the car end, and I'm kind of going to be looking at more the car end stuff, and I'll be looking at where they originally came into cars, the timeline. Was it the 90s? Was it the 2000s? Was it the 2010s? Where was it? I need to highlight that. Key inventors. Were there some key people who were involved in that? And I've got to make that story, okay? And I'm discovering a broad range of information. But within that information, what you need to make clear is you need to make clear that there's going to be primary research and secondary research. Now, the distinction between both is quite simple. Primary research is research that's conducted in the environment around you, okay? For example, I go into a shop, PC World or somewhere like that, or Harvey Norman, and I go in and I have a look at different dashcam products that are available. I look at them, I check the price of them, that's information. I check the style of them, the fittings, the mountings, whatever it is, okay? The shape of the charger, the type of charger connection. Is it a specific type? Is it a universal fitting? Or is it like an iPhone charger connection? Or is it like a Samsung charger connection? And you can make all these relative comparisons. And what you're really doing there is you're showing an understanding for your product, at the development of your understanding. And that should be evident on the page with text and pictures and sketches, and whatever way you want to do that, you do that as your teacher directs you best, because they'll have been doing projects for years and will know what to do to help you to tell the story, because that's what it is. Research is, you might think it's a little bit of a boring term, but really what you're doing, you're storytelling about the product, okay? And you want to bring the examiner up to date. So if I'm looking at your project, I want to see, does Sarah or Jimmy, have they brought me to the point where I understand the basics of the current technology that's out there? And once you have encapsulated that big picture with your primary research and your secondary research, and the secondary research involves getting information from books, getting information online, and so on and so forth. Once you've that information put together, then what you want to do is you want to take a couple of areas out of that, a couple of specific products even out of that. You might find, there are certain brands there, Logitech or something like that, and they look really cool and they're smart and sleek, and you might say, all right, there's something I'm interested in looking more at. And that leads into the kind of the page 2/3 of that output 1, where you'll actually pick two products, okay, and you'll compare them. Now, if one of those products is a dash cam that's from let's say a car at home or a friend's car or whatever, then so be it. And that's great because you have access, physical access to that dash cam, so you can get the relevant, if you can, physically have it and look at it and understand it and get the measurements and be able then to communicate that information graphically by sketching, and also by looking for the product specification guides. They're PDF documents that you will get on products that are simply out there and available to purchase. Okay, so that will be leading into your kind of your design feature comparison, and from those two you will pick one that you will then focus on in output 2, which is a sketch page that will be a very detailed sketch or series of sketches highlighting the number of parts, the different parts that you are going to model. And this is often something that's overlooked, and I can't stress it enough. When you are communicating that information in your project, really what you want to do there, if you're going to model that particular item in SolidWorks, well, that output 2 page should have the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts, if it is whatever it is for yourself. It should have those parts detailed as a sketch and with measurements and with reference to the type of material and the shape and form and function of it. So it's very important that you bear that in mind. The more complicated the object, the more difficult the sketch, the more parts you'll have, and the more work you're going to put onto yourself. Okay, for the ordinary level, it's the same thinking with the charger bank. You're going to be looking at it, you're going to go form, shape, function, and the research story will be the same, and you'll be bringing that through, picking 2 specific products, looking at them in greater detail, and then picking one out of those 2 for your output 2, and looking at that, breaking it down into a minimum of 3 parts for the ordinary level, and then you want to then model that on SolidWorks. And you want to make sure that when you go to use SolidWorks, that you have all the measurements you need to start creating this object. Of course, the teacher will be there to guide you and assist you in how you might go about modeling that in SolidWorks, and that's something I will do with an example that I'm going to model, and that will be in probably about 2 to 3 weeks time, and so you can tune in for that. And I would hope by mid-October that I would have a completed project for you that you can use as an online guide for yourself in the event like that you're doing a little bit of work from home, or even if we're all still in school and there's no interruptions, it's there as a resource for you. Okay, so very important to bear that in mind in the initial thinking. All right, you want to get a broad look, and then you want to get clarity, and you want to get those specific examples, and then you want to get to the specific one that you're going to model. And if you have access to one, you are, I would advise that you build that into your research structure to make sure that you've shown, well, here was a little bit of it, here's a bigger look at it, and now here's a really big look at it because I'm going to model it. Okay, that would be the thinking on that. The part B then, you're going to be looking at, I will take the example of the concept design, where you come up with your own concept design. You'll want to have, a mood board for, the ideas that you want to get, and to sort out your thinking. The mood board is about clearing your thoughts up. Okay, what's your feeling? And out of that mood board, you're going to get inspirations, maybe 1, 2 different inspirations, and they might be thematic, they might not. But what you want to do is you want to communicate those inspirations. For example, I love playing sport. I love music. So maybe the dash cam or the USB charger that I design, maybe it's going to be based on music and sport, and it's going to have some thematic features there from both of those inspirations. And I'll want to show then graphically how I have developed the shape. Okay, and that's going to be an iterative process. An iterative is basically a process of you're working through your thoughts graphically. All right, not necessarily that iterative processes are graphical. They're not. They can be verbal, they can be audio, so on. But what the iteration should show is, if I started off with a rectangle, maybe then that rectangle deviates to kind of maybe a square, and maybe that square deviates to an octagon, and then maybe that octagon deviates to just a half an octagon, and then maybe I decide, a half an octagon shape now that I've sketched out those 4 things. Maybe that half an octagon shape that I have now is going to be the outline shape for my dash cam or my USB charger. okay? And that's been, iterated, and then I might revisit some of the bits that were maybe I go back to that square and I'll add a square bit onto it. So now what I'm doing is I'm looping back into some of the previous processes to gain or lose something, okay, depending on what your design thoughts are about it. So once you've developed out your design idea in output 5, then you're going to go to output 6 and you're going to create the final sketch. Again, that will include the parts that you're going to model, if it's and whatever. As I said, I commented earlier, the parts there's no minimal parts or maximum parts in it, but I would suggest you don't go too mad. 4 or 5 parts enough. One really good part would do as well, but for marks with an assembly you'd need more than 1 part. So I'd always suggest, higher level, keep to the 4 or 5 or the 5 parts there for the second half of the project. And the ordinary level should have at least 3 anyway as well. So you wanted to make sure the information is on that page, the output 6 sketched out, all the measurements and so on thought out, and then output 7 is your SolidWorks. Okay, your modeling, your assembly, your drawing files and so on. And again, all those processes I will be doing a weekly update on all of those. As I say, that project I should have one done, completed by the middle of October. So look, what I would say now is the time for gathering information. My biggest tip with the research at the start is don't be too picky, alright? Don't be focusing on how the background of a page looks. Don't be focusing on cropping out certain parts of an image and keeping one other little part, okay? They are the most time consuming things that you would do, and you'd be surprised how much time you would, not say waste, but how much time you could over allocate to that particular part, because ultimately what you want to get onto the page is just that information that is relevant, okay? And some people would have it very fancy, but it's all about the story it tells, okay? So you can tell that story simply, alright? Now that doesn't mean it'll be a couple of words and a couple of pictures, but it might be just a very simple format, and a very simple format is fine, so long as the information that is required is there. And remember, you want to be aiming towards that extensive criteria considered, which is the upper bound marking category for gaining the full marks in a particular output, okay? So extensive criteria considered, and that's going to, it is going to take a bit of work. I will be making, I've had previous examples done before with previous projects. I will, show you some of the work I've done in later videos. But for now, get at it, gather your information, whether you're using Google Slides or so on. That's, entirely up to you and your teacher, whatever platforms you're using, or whatever way you do it, is by hand, whatever. So that will be, your choice, but make sure you gather the information, all right? And don't just bulk gather information. Get your search terms right in Google, all right? Try and be specific with your search terms so that you're not, getting too much irrelevant information. But you want to get plenty of the good stuff, and then you can sift through it and you can pick out what you like. I have a little analogy for research. It's a bit like going to a pick and mix stand if you've never been to a pick and mix stand. So it's full of sweets. There might be, let's say, 9 different compartments with 9 different sweets. So in order for you to find the sweets that are most relevant to you, i.e. the ones you really like, you're going to have to take a sample of all of them first. You put them into the bag, you eat them maybe at the first movie you're at in the cinema. You'll find, I didn't like them ones. The next time you go back, maybe you don't pick from all 9, you just pick from 5, and you go, right, okay, I like those 5, but I tell you what, I really like 2 of them. You go back the next day, maybe you only pick 2, okay? And then you go, yeah, they're really good, and this one out of the 2 is my favourite, okay? So if you can break your research down that, like a funnel, okay? You're starting off with all this stuff, okay, and then you're bringing it in, okay? So that funnel shape, and what you're getting there is like you're all the heavy stuff, and then you're getting into the more specific stuff as you move through, and as you get a better understanding, because you're going to figure, what, I have a good idea of this and what's really relevant and what I really like, because it's about what you like too when you come to selecting those products, okay, that you're actually going to investigate more at a deeper level. So bear that in mind. Remember your filing structure. You're going to have, whatever platform you're using, you're going to have a main folder with a title DCG SA 2021 underscore your exam number. Now if you don't have your exam number at the moment, that's fine, okay, normally they're issued around Christmas, so just save it with your name then after that. DCG SA underscore, and then I'm Joe Lester, so that's my name there. In that folder, you're going to have two more folders. One is going to be called Electronic Portfolio, and the other folder you create is going to be called SolidWorks. Then inside that SolidWorks folder, you're going to have two more folders. One's going to be called Part A, and the other is going to be called Part B. And Part A folder in the SolidWorks folder is going to be for all the Part A SolidWorks, naturally enough. And then the Part B folder in that SolidWorks folder is going to be for all the stuff in the Part B of the project, which is the one you design essentially. The electronic portfolio, okay, is where you save the document that you're putting everything into. So that Google Slides, that PowerPoint, the Word, whatever document, digital document you're doing, okay. And you can also use that folder to put your research into as you're going along, because you're going to gather information through different forms, all right. It could be pictures you've taken, it could be documents you've got from the internet, it could be physical pictures you've taken of pages in books, or whatever it is. All that information can go into the electronic portfolio, okay. So then at the end, when you're tidying everything up, you'll delete out what you don't need and you'll leave the actual the end product in there, okay. So that's it for today, all right. I'll update you at the end of the week. It could be a Saturday or a Sunday, with the output 1. All right, there's 3 pages in that, and hopefully, at least if I don't have the full thing, at least I'll have 1 to 2 pages of it done, where I can actually go through my thinking, how I'm laying everything out, what I'm including, what I'm not including, what's relevant, what's not relevant. How did I get to these 2? Why did I pick that one? And how did I explain it? Okay, so that will be the key thing in the next video. And until then, all the best and get to it. Okay.